everybody, thank you so much for clicking on this video. So today I'm giving you a basic guide that's gonna help you structure a specific warm-up that will in turn help you get the most out of your workout. So we're gonna look at a sample workout and then I'm gonna show you exactly how and why I choose specific drills to do beforehand. But first, I just wanna get some very basic do's and don'ts of stretching and warm-ups in general. Okay, so I think that we've all kind of heard at this point that we wanna keep our warm-up nice and active and keep the static stretching for afterwards. Studies have actually shown that stretching a muscle prior to strength training can weaken your ability to produce power and could possibly lead to injury. And if you think about it from like a central nervous system point of view, it makes sense, right? We wanna wake up the muscles, get blood flow to them, not stretch them out, lengthen them, reduce all tension, and put them to sleep. So instead of static stretching in your warm-up, I actually recommend a mixture of foam rolling, mobility work, and activation. I love foam rolling because it helps bring blood flow to the area and can help alleviate any tight spots in a muscle. Okay, if I show you an example of this with like a giant resistance band, let's say this is your muscle and you have kind of like a tight adhesion or a knot, as we would call it. So if you're doing static stretching, this is most likely what's gonna happen, right? We're just kind of stretching out the tissues on either side of this tension spot. So this is why when people like have a knot, they wanna get a massage to work it out, right? So if you're working it out with a foam roller, that will hopefully happen. Now, I'm not saying that static stretching can't help relieve that tension, but a more efficient way to get to it is through myofascial release or foam rolling, massage, etc. Okay, now another aspect of your warm-up should be mobility work. Mobility is simply strength through full range of motion at a joint. Now, I've already made an entire video filled with my favorite mobility drills, and we're probably gonna see some of them today, but there's lots of resources out there in case you wanna learn more. But mobility work is important simply because we wanna work without restriction to not only get the most out of our workout, but to avoid pain or injury. And finally, we got some activation. I feel like activation is a word that gets kind of thrown around without people like understanding what it means, but it's simply the act of bringing tension and attention to a part of the body that might not be super active during the day. So for most people, it's gonna be your core, glutes, and probably muscles in the back. And it's important because we wanna get the strongest mind-muscle connection possible, again, to get the most out of our workout. Now, one other thing that I kind of wanna throw in here is like a don't in terms of your warm-up is to simply try and get warm or sweat. I see it all the time that people, particularly influencers, say that their warm up for like an upper body day is just like a 10-minute walk on the treadmill. How is that helping your workout? Or on the flip side, you see people doing hundreds of jumping jacks or jump squats or mountain climbers and all of these things that are really just gonna fatigue your body and take away the energy that you could be putting into the part of your workout that really matters. So a good rule of thumb is to just stay away from splits and sprints prior to your strength training. But now that we understand the basic do's and don'ts, let's jump in and look at our sample workout. Isn't this mug great? Kevin got me this. It's antique. Comment down below your favorite Sesame Street character. Mine's obviously Ernie. Okay, so this was one of my clients' recent programs, and we've been training together for about a year doing a mix of virtual and in-person. And currently we're really focused on getting her first chin up alongside her other long-term goals. So let's just walk through each of these exercises quickly. First, we've got a dead cleans. That means it's from the ground. And I think that this day we actually jumped up to 35 pounds in the last set, which was very exciting. Then we've got a reverse lunge into a skater off of a Bosu ball. This is a lot of fun for power and ankle stability. I almost said her name. This client does a lot of outdoor activities. So this is a great one all around for her stability. And again, it keeps things fun. Next, we've got an elevated single leg deadlift. Very underrated exercise in my opinion. And then we're into our eccentric chin up. So jumping up and lowering down for 5 seconds on this day. Eventually, since this is becoming one of our main skill goals, I'm gonna be moving this up toward the top of her program. But we've been working on our dead cleans for a while, so I'm gonna keep those at the top since they're pretty powerful. I don't know why I'm explaining my programming to you guys. You don't know anything about this person, but I feel like someone's gonna be like, if chin-ups are your main performance goal, you should do them first. And I agree, but we've been working on cleans and I wanna get those really solid before I put the chin-ups at the top. It doesn't matter. Anyway, then we're doing a TRX wide row. And I'm doing this just to hit a different angle of the back. Then we're right down into a hollow hold to work on that front line to help support her chin-ups. And finally, we just kind of worked on her push-ups in the last few minutes because we had a few minutes. These were a different skill goal that we had for a long time. So I was just trying to make sure that like we were keeping up with them. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go through and make note of any movement patterns that I see. So we have hip dominant exercises. So we're definitely gonna need to get those glutes fired fired in the warm-up. There's lots of work on the back, so we're gonna need to get that fired as well. There's some solid overhead extension with that chin up, so we're gonna work on her overhead mobility. And then we're definitely gonna need to get the core ready to just help support all of these exercises. So to make that a little more digestible rather than just me like rambling through, glute activation, back activation, overhead mobility, core activation. Now, this client also has a long-term mobility goal that she's been working on with me and some restrictions through her ankles. So I'm gonna be kind of like tacking that on as well. Remember that your warm-up should not only be specific to your workout, but also to you. So now let's structure this warm-up. To recap, we need glute activation, back activation, overhead mobility, core activation, and then ankle mobility. Now, let me first say that there are endless options here. Absolutely endless. I am picking these based off of what I find works best with clients, but also, again, I've been with this client for about a year, and I know what she really enjoys. So you're definitely gonna wanna work off of your preferences as well as your client's preferences. I'll just kind of pop the warm-up on the screen somewhere here, editing Justina, and then let's break it down piece by piece. So we're gonna start with foam rolling. So she's got her own little routine with this at this point now, like backs, quads, calves, glutes. So I just kind of let her do her thing as I'm getting set up in the space, like grabbing our equipment, and it's like a nice time to just chat up and like feel the energy of the session too. Next, we're gonna do wall slides. So this is to work overhead mobility and back activation. This is my absolute favorite drill for overhead mobility because you're not only working your mobility, but also it like acts as a warm up for your back. Like you're gonna be surprised after 5 reps if you're doing this with intention, how warm your back will be. So the goal here is to keep your elbows, hands, shoulders, low back pressed up against the wall the entire time. You can also do this on the floor if the wall is a little bit too advanced for you. And again, this is just way more challenging than it looks as long as you're working slowly and with intention. Next, we're gonna do some ankle mobility. So I like to do this one against the wall, and I end up counting it by breath, so that's what like the B stands for in the programming note. So essentially, you're just trying to touch your knee to the wall while keeping your heel down. So with every inhale, you're breathing in, filling through the lungs, and then on your exhale, your goal is to try and drive that knee forward just a little bit more. Now, you might look at this and go, well, that's a passive stretch. The difference is that it's not passive. You are actively pushing the whole time. So if you were just hanging out in that stretch, that would be static, that would be passive. But we are actively using the strength of the muscles around your knees and ankles to drive that knee forward. That is the difference. And this is why I say like your warm up and your workouts, you're only gonna get out of it what you're putting in. So if you're just kind of loosey-goosey going through everything, you can get loosey-goosey results. So next we're going into a single leg elevated bridge, and this is our glute activation. So as long as someone has proper stability and form, I'm 99% of the time gonna do single leg activation with people because it's not only going to most likely mimic what we're doing in the workout, but you're also just gonna get like more bang for your buck. Now I chose to elevate the leg here because we're just gonna get a little more hamstring involved, which is also gonna be a big player in our elevated deadlift today. And then finally, we're gonna do this modified forearm plank that I've been really loving recently. If you've been in any of my classes, you know I've been focusing on this. And this is our core activation. And I'm actually gonna superset this with the single leg bridge. I just do that to keep it interesting, not waste time. And like everything else, you can do pretty much anything here, but I'm going with this modified forearm plank. So the goal here is to keep a slight posterior pelvic tilt while really working for that mid-back extension. And then you're gonna try and pinch the floor between your elbows and knees. It's very challenging, it's very fun, very humbling. So we're gonna do 3 sets of that glute core back to back, and then we're ready for our workout. Okay, so that is it. I hope that you guys found that interesting. I get asked a lot just about like how to structure a warm-up, and actually a lot more simple than you think if you just stop, look at what you're doing, and then pick things that are going to enhance what you're doing in your workout. Any questions, as always, leave them down below. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out, and I will see you all in the next one.